Hello. Let me ask you seemingly an odd question. Have you ever seriously considered what it is to be human? Odd though as it might sound, this is a question that has been asked for the past 2,400 years, ever since the time of Hippocrates, this Greek philosopher and physician. The fact that the same question is still being asked proves that the question has never been properly answered. Raising few other obvious questions brings this to focus. For example, we know that all humans enjoy different levels of intelligence. And we also know that all humans invariably at all levels make repeated, unjustifiable, and sometimes grave mistakes, each of which causes a setback to each and every one of us. The question is this: how or why does the human intelligence relent its function, as a result of which we make these silly mistakes? To raise another question, humans fall madly in love, they eagerly get married, and thereby they put the formula of monogamy into practice, and they commit to each other to be faithful for the rest of their lives. And studies show that a high percentage of these people from all races, religions, languages, nationalities, cultures, and both genders engage in extramarital relationship, and thereby they practice polygamy. And this renders the human species alone simultaneously polygamous and monogamous, and therefore sexually confused, that psychologists admit that they cannot explain this mode of human behavior. To use other examples, billions of humans in the course of thousands of years throughout the world have embraced different religions, none of which is capable of scientifically and logically justifying their belief system. And as a result of this, another large group of people relying on science criticize these people for holding belief systems that they are incapable of defending scientifically or logically. However, these scientific people are also incapable of scientifically explaining what in the mind of humans have been compelling billions of humans, again, in the course of human history and throughout the world, towards spirituality that finds reflection in different religions. And therefore, it would not be out of line for one to claim that neither the believers nor non-believers truly grasp what religion is. To use yet another example, humans proudly claim that they are the paragon of intelligence, and yet studies suggest that in the course of the previous 5,000 years, the world has lived without wars for only 41 days. It begs the question, how or why the paragon of intelligence, the superbly intelligent being, willingly would choose this lifestyle, again, worldwide and history long, which proves to be so painful, destructive, and irrational. Just imagine how many times the human civilization has been built and destroyed by human hands. And yet we have the audacity to claim to be the paragon of intelligence. On the opposite end, however, it was humans who built the pyramids in Egypt thousands of years ago. And it was humans who landed on the moon and invented the internet and achieved endless other magical, large and small achievements, which indeed makes humans superbly intelligent. Then it is incumbent upon us to reconcile this seemingly irreconcilable contradiction of being irrefutably utterly intelligent and also irrefutably utterly unintelligent, based on our achievements versus our behavior. Just to use one more example out of many more to make my point, I have documented in my studies that humans have been relishing fine arts close to 40,000 years in a universal scale. And yet nobody can articulate why a person picking up a microphone and making strange noises in name of singing or making frivolous moves in name of dancing renders so much pleasure to this otherwise superbly intelligent and purposeful being, humans. And the same applies to all the rest of the arts. How could the human race relish something for such a long period of time without being capable of articulating the source and the cause of the pleasure the art renders? And therefore, it would not be an exaggeration to claim that we really do not understand our own species, and the human species is the most misconceived, as a result of which all these human mysteries persist for thousands of years. And therefore, if we do not understand what it is to be human, do we have a proper context to help us to understand ourselves individually and the people who surround us in our personal and professional lives? Allow me to briefly introduce myself and my studies. Again, my name is Mark Abraham, and a very long time ago, I came to the United States as a foreign student, bent on getting an education that would help me identify the hidden causes of perpetual human conflict. And therefore, I learned English as my third language, and I acquired 2 degrees from 2 different universities in the field of international politics, because most conflicts occur at international level. Although I learned a great deal about world affairs, but I did not find what I was looking for. Thus, I committed 25 years of my postgraduate studies to studying philosophy and psychology, hoping that I might find some hints there. Unfortunately, this protracted effort of mine also became fruitless, because I did not find any thought system or theory that would help us to understand ourselves or our species. But in the course of my efforts, among other things, I learned 2 things. Number one, the thinkers of the past, being so fascinated by human intellect, they had studied humans and humanity exclusively from the standpoint of intellect and reasoning ability. This is not to be oblivious to a limited number of psychologists and psychiatrists who try to integrate instinct into their studies, such as Sigmund Freud, Carl Gustav Jung, William McDougall, Rutgers Marshall, and a few others. However, their efforts were qualitatively and quantitatively marginal and negligible. The other thing I learned was that there is a tremendous void in understanding what it is to be human. And based on these 2 factors, therefore, I used a huge amount of information that I had amassed in the course of my formal education and postgraduate studies to formulate my own theories that I have published in these 6 books that I will be introducing in my next clip. I will be introducing my books and some of the content. Also, I produced an 8-hour documentary in one of my other 2 languages that I will be introducing in my next clip. With that being said, I argue to understand what it is to be human, we need to find our place in the mix of other beings, animals, non-human animals. Based on my studies, I have proven that every dimension of the livelihood of all non-human beings are governed by their instinct and instinct alone. This renders the mind of all animals as single polar entity consisting of instinct. The human mind alone is bipolar, and it consists of instincts and intellect. And therefore, to be human is to be equipped to a bipolar mind consisting of instincts and intellect. And this most distinctly separates human from all animals. The profound implications of this understanding cannot be exaggerated, as gradually it will become clear. To start with, I have proven in my studies that instincts in humans and in animals as a phenomenon are unchanging, unchangeable, stagnant, and therefore primitive. And taking all these properties of instincts into consideration, if we wanted to present that as a graph, we could only show it as a linear horizontal line, as you see on the screen, that neither ascends nor descends with the progression of time. When we examine human intellect from the same perspective, I have proven, and as we see in our daily lives, that the human intellect has grown relentlessly from dawn of humanity, Not only it has been relentlessly growing, but this growth has become exponential with the progression of time. The reason being, every new finding, inventions and discoveries enables other new findings, inventions and discoveries, and this endows speed and momentum to the growth of human intellect. And therefore, taking these factors into consideration on human intellect, if we wanted to present that as a graph, we could only show it as what you see on the screen. Because both instincts and intellect reside in human mind, therefore they are interlocked continuously, sometimes in cooperation and sometimes in contradiction, but nevertheless they are locked in together forever. And everything humans do result from the joint function of these two mental forces. And because we can juxtapose these two graphs, then we get this third graph as you see on the screen. Because of the contrasting natures of the progressing intellect and stagnant instinct, as you see, a growing divide has emerged from dawn of humanity that progressively has widened. This growing divide between instincts and intellect is nothing other than growing imbalance in human mind, which again has profound implications. Everything we do, individually and collectively, again, stem from the joint function of these two major mental forces of instinct and intellect. And therefore, if you wish to understand what renders the human species so combative, as a result of which, in the course of the previous 5,000 years, the world has lived in true peace for only 41 days, you need to understand this graph. If you wish to understand what in human mind compels humans towards arts, and why we love music, poetry, dancing, painting, sculpture, the art of storytelling, acting, film production, Persian rugs, architecture work, and so forth and so on, you need to understand this graph. If you wish to identify the organic roots of spirituality in human mind that finds expression in different religions, you need to understand this graph. If you wish to understand what in human mind renders humans and humans alone simultaneously polygamous and monogamous and therefore sexually confused, you need to understand this graph. If you wish to understand why human intellect relents its function, as a result of which allows all humans at all levels, regardless of their power, wealth, level of education, level of intelligence, make grave mistakes, you need to understand this graph. If you wish to understand what wisdom is and why it has always been so scarce, and how people can elevate the level of their not only intelligence but also wisdom, and what is the difference between intelligence and wisdom, you need to understand this graph. And by the way, this is very, very possible that humans can increase the level of their intelligence, wisdom, and thus their happiness, which I will cover on the online classes that I will be offering in details. There is nothing about humans that you wish to understand that you could acquire a deep understanding of the phenomena in the absence of understanding what this graph has to offer. And because of the absence of this understanding contained in this seemingly simple graph, the human mysteries have persisted for thousands of years. This study of mine, titled as The Interactions Between Instincts and Intellect and Their Impact on Human Behavior, published in these 6 books, offers all the details of what I shared with you and much, much more. I have been asked by different people what makes my studies different from all the preceding studies, as a result of which this has been able to unravel so many human mysteries. The answer needs to be found in the method employed in such studies. The conventional way of studying the human mind or the mind-related subjects has been that they study these subjects in the realm of material world outside the realm of human mind. And for example, if they want to solve the mystery of religion, they study different religions, they learn their rules and regulations and history, and then compare them, hoping that they would solve this mystery. And just to make it tangible, I would like to share something with you. The Collin Foundations in the United States arranged a seminar in Hawaii and invited all the experts of religions from all different brands of religions. Each of them presented their understanding of religion, and their lectures were reduced to 5 to 6 pages, and they were put together, and there were 50 of them, and this book results from these lectures. The book is titled as The Evolution of Religion: Studies, Theories, and Critiques is the title of the book. And it contains a great deal of fascinating information for those who are curious about religions. However, they could not solve the mystery of religion. And the same holds for fine arts, as I mentioned before. And therefore, that's why these mysteries remain unsolved. What I have done is I have taken this traditional method of studying such subjects, and I have turned it upside down and inside out, literally, which is to say that I have disassembled the human mind into its individual parts to study the properties, mission, and function of each separately. In this process, I have come to learn that the mind of all humans consists of the same 20 different mental forces, each of which has its own particular and unique and well-defined function. The only difference is that the intensity and the strength of each of these 20 mental forces varies from one person to another, and that distinguishes individuals from each other. And this has enabled me to identify exactly what in human mind longs for what and why they do so. And thus I have been able to identify the organic roots of humans' inclination toward fine arts, and also the organic roots of humans' love of sports, and also the organic roots of spirituality in human mind, and what renders the human sexuality not only so complicated but also paradoxical, and why humans make so many mistakes. The conglomerate of this understanding is what unravels the human mind, which has been missing from the previous studies, in my humble opinion. One of the major mysteries that this solves, that I will be covering in next clip, is what's commonly known as the subconscious mind. Because we did not know these 20 mental forces, obviously we could not know their properties, mission, and function, and not knowing the 20 mental forces created a huge ambiguity and unknown about the human mind. And therefore, not knowing these 20 mental forces, obviously we could not know their properties, mission, and function. And this created another layer of unknown factor about the human mind. And then we also were oblivious to the fact that the human mind and human mind alone is bipolar, and that created the third major unknown factor about the human mind. These three unknown mental factors together constitute what is known as the subconscious mind. Once we get to know the intricacies of these unknown factors, then immediately that renders the subconscious mind naked before those who get to learn these. And not only we get to understand our subconscious mind, but we master it. Up until then, it was our subconscious mind that created our moods, branded our reasoning pertaining to everything that we face in our daily lives, made our decisions for us, and dictated the terms, and we acted accordingly. As soon as our subconscious mind rises to a conscious level, then not only it becomes accessible to us, but we master it. We manage that instead of being managed by it. And in doing so, we purge the mistakes that we have made, or at least substantially decrease them, and we make less mistakes, achieve more success, and transform our lives. These are some of the fruits of understanding the bipolar nature of human mind in a nutshell. And there's a great deal more that I could not fit in this short time span. One of which is, again, I have introduced an online personality and behavior assessment test that not only introduces these 20 mental forces to those who take this test, but also measures the strength of each of them against each other and produces an elaborate report that introduces each of these mental forces, shows you how they impact your daily life, each of them, and make suggestions how you can manage each of them to transform your life. I hope some of you will be interested in enrolling in my classes when I introduce them. Thank you so much for your attention and watching. Be well.